What is going on, you guys? It is your boy DQ back at you again, yet with another video. Today's video is going to be me reacting to this Geography Now Germany. So there's been a couple of people that have requested it, so you know what? I'm going to react to it today. But before we get started, if you are brand new here, feel free to hit that subscribe button. I bring you videos all about the differences between the US and Germany from an American's point of view. So if that sounds like your cup of tea, then smash that subscribe button down below. Let's see if we can actually make it to 1,000 subscribers by the end of January. So yeah, let's do it. But yeah, without further ado, let's get into this video.
All right. Lederhosen, Schnitzel beer, bratwurst order, bread and beer, complicated history beer, no humor, EDM, and gummy bears that will kind of like give you diarrhea, but it's like worth it. Ugh, those are such horrible stereotypes that every German is so sick and tired of hearing. Want gummy bear?
It's so true.
It's time to learn geography.
Germans love Haribo. Haribo is so good too. I heard that those big bags do give you like a stomach ache or make you have to go to the bathroom or something. But I've never seen a bag that big. Maybe it's only an American thing, but I haven't seen a bag that big in America either. But yeah,
Hey everyone, I'm your host Barbie. So we've conquered Belgium's castle, jumped through Denmark's lagoon, danced through France's forest, and now we've made it to the final boss of the EU, Kingpin Germany. Level 1, begin. Ah, you know why I'm smiling. Yep, Germany has a lot of territorial anomalies. We'll get into that in a little bit, but first, Germany is located in central Western Europe, bordered by 9 other countries. Don't forget little Luxembourg, with small coasts on the North and Baltic Seas, which they own about 50 small islands. Now, Germany, like the US, is a
50 small islands, I didn't know that.
16 smaller states, or Bundeslande, each with its own constitution, 3 of which are cities, the capital Berlin, Hamburg, and Bremen, which is actually kind of like 2 cities, including Bremerhaven on the coast, but they kind of act like one entity. Fun side note, Lower Saxony is actually
Bremen,
situated further north than regular Saxony. Now let's jump into the fun stuff. Now we already discussed the Jungholz Quadrupoint and the Vennbahn railway enclaves with Belgium and Austria. However, there's a few more. The entire town of Bussingen am Hochrhein is surrounded by Switzerland, whereas part of the Constance is cut off by the Rhine River. Constance, and
I love his pronunciation, but he has to be American or something. But he's doing a pretty good job. I'm American, but yeah, it's still funny. It's still funny to hear when people actually make these kind of sort of mistakes or whatnot. But yeah, I mean, yeah.
River and surrounded by Switzerland, however, immediately across the river, a small patch of empty land on the German side actually belongs to Switzerland. Finally,
I didn't know that.
With Poland in the north. Germany is interesting.
I knew that.
Every state in the country has its own distinct culture, dialect, history, food, traditions. I mean, Bavarians will be quite drastically different from Schleswig-Holsteiners. Mecklenburg-Vorpommern will be different from Saarland. This all has to do with ancient and recent history. Basically, in the quickest way I can summarize this, Germanic tribes, Roman wars, Charlemagne, 3 kingdoms, this guy marries an Italian, creating a whole new mess called the Holy Roman Empire made up of 300 smaller separate kingdoms, states, and dukedoms, which had nothing to do with Romans. Teutonic Knights, Brandenburgs became Prussia, Habsburgs became Austrians, Lithuanians and Poles made their own thing, whereas the Hungarians joined the Austrians. Wars, battles, Napoleon comes over and messes everything up, and finally, German nationalism surges, and in 1871, Otto von Bismarck creates the first proto-German unified state. And then they're all like, oh dang, we came late to this game. We gotta scramble for some colonies. And that's how all of these countries at one point spoke German. Oh, and also keep in mind...
I didn't know that. No, I didn't know that. But he's good. He's talking really fast, but he's good.
Like 300 years before this, a German banking company obtained colonial rights to Venezuela for like 20 years. They were looking for the lost city of El Dorado. So technically, you can kind of say Germans colonized the Americas, but it wasn't like a nationalized conquest thing. Fast forward even more, and then you get World War I, the monarchy ends, Treaty of Versailles, they lose land, Nazis come in, World War II, Germany splits in 2 for about 40 years, and then finally, we get the Germany we have today. East Germany, consisting of these states, is today still quite different from the rest of Germany as it was first occupied and influenced by the Soviet Union. They are generally not as well off economically as the rest of the country, as you can still see the blocky Soviet-style buildings sprawled throughout the regions. In fact, the city of Berlin was split in half, and the west side was actually an enclave of West Germany, only accessible by train and highway. You can even see from a satellite image the divide. East Berlin still uses the tinted sulfur light bulb.
Yeah, you good.
Whereas the West still uses fluorescent and mercury arc white tinted light bulbs. The funny thing
I didn't know that.
Berlin is the largest largest city in Germany, the busiest airports are actually Frankfurt, Munich, Dusseldorf, with Berlin Tegel ranking at number 4. Otherwise...
Okay, so the Berlin airport, we all know the fiasco that's actually in Berlin. That airport has been trying to get built for years. It is absolutely ridiculous. Not that Germans were supposed to be great engineers, but the Berlin airport is saying otherwise, y'all.
Some top notable landmarks and spots would be the Brandenburg Gate, the Valhalla, Cologne Cathedral, Westminster Church, the tallest in the world, the Berlin Victory Column, hundreds of castles all over. The most notable one probably being Neuschwanstein, the concept behind...
I haven't been to that one.
Castle. Germany also has over 400 zoos, more than any other country in the world. And of course, everybody knows about the Autobahn, the highway system in which if you see this sign, it means there's no speed limit. It's like that for a huge portion of the roadway. And no wonder, considering how vast and wide those cultivated countrysides can get. Time for level 2.
Oh, there's different levels.
Okay, think of it this way. In Germany, the more down you go, the more up you move. Basically, Germany lies on the Atlantic shelf in the north that starts with the mudflats in the North Sea. Seriously, this island right here is accessible only for a few hours by foot until the tide comes and floods everything. Then everything just kind of creeps up into the Alps in the south by Bavaria and Baden-Württemberg, with the highest mountain...
I lived in Baden-Württemberg, and we live pretty high up, so yes, this is very true. But some of the towns of Baden-Württemberg did get flooded and washed away when I was there, so yeah.
Zugspitze, located right along the border with Austria. Kind of like France,
Zugspitze.
Germany is filled with a vast irrigating network of rivers like the Spree, Elbe, Weser, Rhine, and of course the mighty Danube that starts here. About a third of the land is arable and another third is woodland, and after millennia of civilization, Germans have cultivated the crap out of their country. Most agriculture happens in the North Flat Plains and the central regions of the country, which is, by the way, kind of like Europe's tornado alley.
Where I lived in Baden-Württemberg, it was right on the border of Bayern, and we had a lot of farmland around us. So maybe I'm just used to farmland, but I don't know. I didn't really know that it was only like a northern thing or central. But yeah, I guess.
Due to its position sandwiched between the Arctic blasts of Scandinavia and the moist, warm jet streams of the Mediterranean below, Germany can be an atmospheric war zone in the summer. There are more tornadoes on average in Germany than any other country in Europe. Speaking of flat farmland...
Really? I've never seen a tornado in Germany, though. I don't even think we had like any tornado warnings where I live. We had a lot of flash flood warnings, though. A lot of floods, a lot of flooding and whatnot. But tornadoes, I really didn't know that.
Germany is the world's largest rye and hop producer. Germans abso-freaking-lutely love their bread. There are over 300 different kinds of bread in the country, more types than any other country in the world, and almost every meal incorporates some kind of slice or small bun or Brötchen of bread.
Very true. Like, Germans love their bread. Absolutely love it. Every meal has bread.
Do gluten-free? Nein! Germans are heavy meat eaters, specifically in pork. They basically know every
They love
way
their
to
meat
cook a
too.
pig. Over 50 different types of sausage exist alongside schnitzels, rouladen, sauerbraten, Schweinsachse, and at a big party you might find Spanferkel. Beer reigns supreme all over as the third largest consumers of beer after the Czech Republic. Even their president has no problem with public intoxication. And Austria. Germany is world renowned for their beer, which by the way follows the Reinheitsgebot rule in which they are only allowed to use water, hops, malt, and sometimes yeast. Nonetheless, about 1,300 breweries exist, pumping out over 5,000 brands. The oldest continuously existing brewery in the world started by Benedictine monks in 1040 AD.
We actually have Weinstoffen here in North Carolina.
As of today, they have the largest installed solar power capacity
in the world.
Construction practices like home installed turbines and solar panels have seen a huge surge in the past 10 years. Forests dominate the southern regions where the landscape gets hillier and mountainous, the most famous one being the Black Forest or the Schwarzwald in Baden-Württemberg. Deer, bears, boar, foxes, badgers, and the national animal, the eagle, can be found thriving in these parts. Nonetheless,
really? I didn't know that national animal was the eagle, and I didn't know there were bears everywhere. Foxes and stuff, kind of like self-explanatory. Forest, it is what it is. But everything else, I really had no idea.
Germany is known mostly for their exceptional engineering and industry production. Companies we've all heard of,
like
Volkswagen, BMW, Mercedes-Benz, Porsche, Audi, Telecom, Nivea, DHL, Bosch, Adidas, Puma, Adidas, Puma! Yeah, it's kind of like the whole Biscoito Bolacha thing from Brazil. Remember? Well, we have mudflats, tornadoes, pork, beer, mountains. All that's missing is people. Level 3. Fun little side note,
Demographics.
Germany, this is 3, not this. Now, if the EU was a family,
True.
Germany would kind of be like the dad
Very
who got out
true.
of rehab, reconciled with his wife and kids, and is taking his new life very seriously as he is haunted by the demons of his past every day. First of all, the country has about 82 million people and is the most populated in the EU, second most in Europe after Russia, and has the 4th largest nominal GDP in the world.
Very true. And believe it or not, I believe Germany is only 1.5 times the size of Texas. So you can technically fit almost 2 Germanys inside of Texas, which is ridiculous. I think it's the size of Montana in the US, but Montana only has, I want to say, like 1 million people, something around that sort. And Germany has 83 million people. Whew! I mean, that's a huge difference.
About 80% of the country identifies as ethnically German, 12% other Europeans, mostly Polish, Italian, Dutch, and so on. Turks make up about 3.5%, Asians
Wow.
2%, and the rest are made up of other groups like Africans and Americans. Also, they use the euro, they use a C and F type outlet.
I didn't know that only 3% were Turkish and stuff, but 12% other Europeans, I can 100% see that. A lot of Russians in Germany. There were also a lot of Hungarians, so I can definitely see that. There was also a lot of Asians. I believe, if I'm not wrong, that Dusseldorf has the highest population of Japanese people in the world outside of Japan. Yeah, which is absolutely insane. So, yeah.
And they drive on the right side of the road. Germany is without a doubt a global powerhouse. It is the strongest economy in the EU and makes up about 16% of the union's population. It's the 3rd largest exporter and importer of goods in the world. After the United States, Germany is also the 2nd most popular global migration destination. Germany experiences a high standard of living, tuition-free universities, if you get accepted that is, a mostly government-subsidized universal healthcare system, about a quarter is still privatized, and state pension for retirement at age 65.
I had private insurance in Germany, so yeah.
Now, when it comes to language, things get a little tricky. Each state kind of has their own type of German. However,
It's so true. Okay, so I speak a little bit of Schwäbisch. Also, wenn ich Deutsch spreche, spreche ich es einfach so. Also, ich spreche Witzle so. Witzle. Wieso habe ich Witzle gesagt? Ich spreche ein bisschen Schwäbisch, also ich schwätze Deutsch, ne? Also ich spreche Deutsch nicht, ich schwätze. Und ich sag Weckle, ich sag auch mal geh mal, Idke oder irgendwas, ne? Also so ist mein Dialekt auf Deutsch. So it's kind of complicated when you get into like different types of Germans and whatnot. Bayerisch, I do not understand at all. But pretty much every other German dialect I kind of understand. So I think it's all right. It's all right.
Most Germans learn how to speak Hochdeutsch, or High German, which
Hochdeutsch,
is the standard dialect. The European Charter, however, protects the minority languages of Frisian, Danish, Romani, Sorbian, which is like a Slavic-based language used along the Czech-Polish border, and Plattdeutsch, or Low German, which has similarities to Dutch and is typically used by the Amish and Mennonite communities across the world. In terms of regional distinctions, though, Germany is kind of divided into 5 cultural areas: Rhineland, East and Middle Deutschland, Norddeutschland, Baden-Württemberg, and Bavaria.
I love how they separated Baden-Württemberg and Bavaria away from everything else, because it's so true. It is so true. Baden-Württemberg really is like its own region in Germany, considering it was like West Germany, North, East, and then Baden-Württemberg, Bavaria. It's so true. It is so true. So true.
Finland is on the west side and has a culture somewhat more influenced by France, more Catholics. Carnival celebrations are huge out here. East and Middle Germany is the part that used to be its own country for 40 years as it was influenced by the Soviets. Sorbians can also be found here too. Northern Germany has a coastal sea culture that identifies closer with Denmark and the Netherlands. They're also known for being kind of quiet and reserved. Baden-Württemberg has an interesting Swabian culture where they speak a dialect so thick that only about 40% of it is intelligible to other Germans. And then you have
It's so true, because no one can understand me when I speak German. But those masks and everything they had on, also such a Baden-Württemberg thing. It's so true.
Area, which is where the Americanized, perpetuated stereotypes about Germany came from, with Lederhosen
also
and
true.
those half-timber beer houses and cuckoo.
But we also wear Lederhosen in Baden-Württemberg too, for like your beer festivals and stuff. So there's a lot of beer festivals that are also in Baden-Württemberg that aren't in Bayern. So Bayern has Oktoberfest, whereas in Baden-Württemberg we'll have Volksfest, Cannstatter Vasen, we'll have Mueswiese and Mueswiese, Volksfest. We have so many beer festivals as well. So yeah, this also Frühlingsfest, but Bayern has like their Weindorf, like their wine festivals and whatnot. So we always took the train to where was it, Würzburg, which is like an hour away from where we were with the train, just to be a part of all these different festivals and everything. It's actually kind of true what he's saying.
Clocks. For the record, Germans are sick of those stereotypes. It's like saying all Americans are cowboys with guns and horses. Speaking of stereotypes, some of the stereotypes in Germany include things like Saxons being very indecisive, Berliners are always bragging about themselves, Swabians are stingy, Bavarians drink too much, Hessians talk too much, Holsteiners don't talk enough, and so on. Words differ from regions too. For example, in High German, you would say Auf Wiedersehen, but in Bavarian, you would say Fiat Gott. In Kölsch, you would say Tschüss, and in Rhineland, you might say Ayus. And there's so many compound words that get really long and complicated, like
I don't know.
Überwachungsgesetz.
He actually said that really good though.
Ambiguous words that are kind of elongated to give off an extensive meaning. Germans have very vivid imaginations and make up words for everything. Like my favorite word, Backpfeifengesicht.
Backpfeifengesicht.
By the way, for the record, this letter makes a double S sound. However, spelling reformers have tried to decrease the usage of this letter in recent years.
And just make it double S.
Germans also love dubbing everything from foreign media into German.
So it's so true. Like, oh my gosh. Like, a lot of other European countries actually have everything in English. Not Germany. Germany was like, no, you're in Germany. We're going to make everything in German. And which isn't an issue, but the only issue that I have with this is that sometimes when you know the English voices, it kind of loses its translation that comes across because the actor actually makes like the joke hit, or some jokes also don't translate into German, and it just gets complicated. But yeah.
But either way, it's here to stay. About 60% of the country identifies at least nominally as Christians, split between Protestants and Catholics.
Didn't know that.
The birthplace of the Protestant Reformation, split from the Catholic Church by Martin Luther. Otherwise, the rest are mostly agnostic or irreligious, with a noticeable community of Muslims, mostly from the huge Turkish and Middle Eastern communities, at about 5%, as well as a few Jews, Buddhists, and Hindus rounding up the remainder 1%. To get a feel of what it's like to be German, you kind of have to understand where they've come from. After World War II, they kind of had a lot of work to do. However, it wasn't until the mid-50s and early 60s that the Wirtschaftswunder, or economic wonder, happened, to which almost everybody got to work. Basically, this guy envisioned and implemented a social market economy combined with free market capitalism alongside socialist policies that established fair competition in a welfare state. GDP increased by 80%, investments by 120%, labor forces were utilized to the maximum. Things started to get better. In Germany, all children are corralled into general public schools until age 10, when they are given the option to enroll in 3 different types of middle schools. Gymnasium, geared towards focusing on higher linguistic, mathematics, and science fields for universities.
Realschule,
type of school, and Hauptschule, a school that is geared towards helping kids that seem to show promise in specific vocation or trades. Germany also has the largest music market in the EU. So
the schools that I actually worked at in Germany, I worked at a gymnasium. So a gymnasium with internat, which is like a boarding school. So I worked there, and then I actually worked at a language school after that. But yeah, his information is pretty accurate. You know, they did a lot of research for this video. They might be German. Maybe the people that made this are German, because they do a lot of research.
And the third in the world after the US and Japan. They love preserving their heritage and culture through music and art. In fact, there are around 130 national orchestras, mostly supported by public money, and artists get a 50% reduction in health insurance through a special type of offer in the legal system. One thing I
did not know that. That's actually really good.
The mindset of Vergangenheitsbewältigung. Totally butchered that, which kind of translates to a lingering sense of guilt from the past. Germans have reportedly some of the lowest levels of national pride, and unless if you're at a soccer game, chances are you will almost never see anyone holding a German flag.
This is actually super true. So I was trying to make like t-shirts and everything for like my store and whatnot, and I wanted to put some German flags on them. And one of my my graphic designers is German, and he said, you won't see a lot of people wearing a German flag, which I'd never really realized until he said that. And I was like, wow, I never really saw anyone with a German flag unless it was a football game or a soccer game, if you want to say, or something. I really didn't really see it. And I'm like, wow, you're kind of right. So, like, I didn't really see any of that, which is absolutely crazy because in the U.S., I mean, it is American pride all the way. It's just so American flag everywhere. Anything you wear, everywhere.
Or waving it in any kind of like patriotic setting. It's weird, but it's kind of how things are.
You monster.
They've made
True.
great strides to move on from the past. Nazi flags and Mein Kampf are incredibly illegal items to own in Germany. And they even have a rule, the Volksverhetzung, which basically...
So I saw one of the comments that actually said that the Mein Kampf book isn't illegal in Germany. I thought it was illegal as well. Let me know down in the comments below if it's illegal or not. Is it that way? I know if you try and buy it in the US, you get put on like a terrorist watch list or something. Is it kind of like the same in Germany? Is it really illegal in Germany? Just let me know down below.
basically says you cannot talk trash by denying the past atrocities. Some people say this infringes on free speech, others say it's good because it solidifies truth. Otherwise, some notable Germans throughout history include Charlemagne, although he was a Frank, but I guess it kind of counts. Albrecht Dürer, David Friedrich, Gutenberg, Bach, Beethoven,
I know Johannes
Karl
Gutenberg.
Benz, Albert Einstein, although Americans would like to claim that he moved to the US and became an American. Johannes Kepler, Johann Wolfgang
True.
von Goethe, Friedrich
I know him.
Schiller, Michael Shoemaker,
I
Alex
know
von
him.
Humboldt, and of course
I know
Karl
him.
Marx and Friedrich Engels co-founded Marxism.
Yep.
But one thing Germans do best would have to be diplomacy. To this day, the German passport holds the most visa-free nations out of any other country in the world, just
True.
beating Sweden. Therefore, you can kind of conclude that Germany kind of knows how to relate to people. Let's find out how in the final round, level 4.
Okay, so this whole thing that Germans know how to relate to people, I find kind of funny that they have the strongest visa, the strongest passport in the world, considering that it was so hard to relate to Germans when I was in Germany. So I'm just like, how can they relate to the most people, but they have the strongest? But it was hard for me to relate to them. It was hard, but this could also be like a Baden-Württemberg thing. Swabians, don't hate me for that. Yeah. Swabians.
Germany knows how to make friends. They have over 220 diplomatic missions abroad and over 350 honorary consuls and have an incredibly high position of authority in the EU. Their closest African friend would probably be Namibia. As a former German colony way back in the 19th century,
I did not know that.
And to this day, German is still a recognized language in Namibia. Germans have
Really?
been sharing ties both economically and ideologically for over a century. India and South Korea are really close friends in Asia. India supported both East and West Germany during the Cold War, and after reunification, they were like, woohoo, even better! And Germany is to South Korea what Japan is to France. They love to piggyback off of each other's ideas and cultures, especially in the automotive industry. Many South Koreans were sent to Germany after the Korean War to work abroad and study, and Germans have been growing in fascination with visiting South Korea. The US is probably the closest ally outside of the EU. About 30% of Americans claim German heritage, and after World War II, the Marshall Plan allowed the US to give post-war aid to Germany, which helped kickstart the economic recovery. Germany was a key figure in the formation of the State of Israel after World War II, which after the Holocaust left an obligation to invest in the building up of a Jewish community. Turkey is probably the closest Middle Eastern ally, as the Turks make up the largest Asian demographic.
I didn't know any of
Many
this.
of them may or may not also identify as Kurds, but since Kurds don't have a state of their own, they usually go under Turkish passports when immigrating and are documented as such. Their best friends, however, would probably be literally all their neighbors. The thing is, Germany is kind of like Bosnia and Herzegovina, in which by default they kind of get friends based off of the regional alliances. Bavarians get along with Austrians, Baden-Württembergs get along with Switzerland, East Germany has good relations with Slavic countries, the Rhine states love Belgium, Luxembourg, and
Baden-Württembergs don't like anyone besides the other Baden-Württembergers.
Wife of Germany, as the two have had an angry start but then eventually fell in love and worked together beautifully. France is like the beautiful, flashy spokesperson for the EU that stands in the spotlight as Germany stands in the background, managing all the money.
Gets the money, yeah, that's so true.
Have existed for thousands of years. An actual unified German state didn't appear until kind of recently, and the brief time that they've been around, they've kind of gone through some of the most intense, world-revolutionizing historical events possibly imagined. Yet they've come out working hard and building their way up to become a world superpower. You gotta give it to them. There's something about the Germans. And with that, final boss level complete. Stay tuned. Another African state Germany has ties to, Ghana, is coming up next. That's
actually all super true what he was saying. I didn't know some of this stuff actually. I'm actually super shocked about that. I didn't realize that I can't remember what country it was in Africa that still recognizes German as language. It still recognizes it and everything. That's actually crazy. I didn't know that. But Germany definitely funds the rest of the EU. We all know this. But again, the Baden-Württembergers, they don't like anyone besides Baden-Württembergers, and yeah. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Comment down below what actually shocked you the most about this video. hit one of the videos on the screen right now to see other differences between the US and Germany and possibly the other places in the world. And yeah, I will see you guys in the next video. Peace out. Peace out. Yeah.